Okay, so today we're diving deep into, well, this sermon on Isaiah 53.
Okay.
And this passage, it's heavy stuff, right? Sacrifice, redemption. It gets pretty intense.
Right.
But I know you're interested in these themes, and I think this one's going to really make you think.
Okay.
One thing that really hit me was how this sermon that doesn't mess around, it says
Yeah.
Christ's suffering. That wasn't just some event in the past.
Yeah.
It's like the foundation, the bedrock of the whole Christian faith.
That's true. It's like the sermon, it puts this idea of atonement front and center.
Okay.
And atonement, that's it's a big theological word. But basically it's saying sin. It creates the separation between us, humanity, and God, right?
Okay.
And the sermon's saying this gap, it's not something we can just fix on our own.
So, we've messed up so bad, there's this huge debt, and there's no way we could ever repay it.
Exactly, yeah. That's where this whole cost of redemption comes in.
Okay.
The sermon, it really stresses how serious sin is. Like, it's not just, a checklist of bad things we did. It has real consequences.
Okay, so we've got this huge chasm between us and God because of sin.
Right.
And then, boom, the sermon throws Isaiah 53.5 at us.
Yeah.
And it uses this really intense language, like Christ being pierced for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities.
Right.
I mean, ouch, right? It's rough.
Yeah.
Why such strong imagery? What's the sermon going for here?
Well, this wasn't just some casual poetry reading.
Right.
It was meant to make you feel something, like in your gut. Crucifixion, I mean, we both know it was brutal. It was meant to inflict suffering, like you can't even imagine physically and emotionally.
Definitely.
The sermon wants us to really get to grasp the agony that Jesus went through.
Yeah.
It's making this cost of our redemption, which can seem kind of, I don't know, abstract. It's making it real and painful.
Yeah. And, it's not like Jesus didn't know what was coming.
Right.
It's not like he was surprised.
Exactly.
The sermon makes it clear this was his choice. He chose to go through with this, knowing what it would mean.
Absolutely. It really highlights that this wasn't something forced on him, He
No.
was a willing participant.
Right.
Which, this brings up a question that I think a lot of people struggle with.
Oh, yeah.
If God is all-powerful, then why? Why couldn't there have been some other way?
Yeah, that's the big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's something I've thought about a lot myself, actually.
Yeah.
So if I can just jump in here for a sec, what's the sermon's take on that?
It really boils down to this. This act, this sacrifice, it was the ultimate act of love.
Okay.
Like the biggest way God could show his love for humanity.
Yeah.
The sermon, it even quotes John 3:16, "For God so loved the world."
Oh.
You know how it goes.
Yeah.
It's this idea that God, because he loves us so much, he chose to bridge that gap himself through Jesus.
Okay.
It's about this profound exchange.
So are you saying Jesus takes on all the weight of our sin, the punishment for it, so we have a chance to be right with God?
Yes.
Kind of like if someone stepped in and paid off a friend's debt, but on a cosmic level?
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just about dodging punishment either, right?
Oh.
There's this line in Isaiah 53.5. It says, "By his wounds we are healed." And the sermon, it really digs into what that healing really means.
Okay.
It's
So it's not just about, getting off the hook for messing up. There's more to this whole healing thing than just, our physical bodies getting fixed.
You got it. The sermon really digs into this whole idea of healing, and it ties it to our emotions, our spiritual state, all of that.
Okay.
It's like finding peace, knowing that Christ, he gets it. He experienced the whole human experience, all the suffering, everything.
That's pretty profound when you think about it. We're
Yeah.
not alone in our struggles because, well, he's been there too.
Yeah.
But then that makes me wonder, okay, so we're forgiven, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're offered this incredible healing, but then what? What are we supposed to do with it? It's like the sermon's saying, accepting this gift, that's just the first step,
Right.
What happens next?
And that's where it gets really interesting. Because the sermon, it shifts gears a bit. It goes from this really personal experience of salvation, and then boom, it's a call to action. It's about looking outward, taking care of each other.
Okay.
It stresses how important it is to share each other's burdens. It even quotes Galatians 6.2 directly, talking about how that's our job
Yeah.
as part of the faith.
So it's not enough to just be yep, I believe it, and then just go about our lives.
Yeah.
We have to actually live it out, show it in how we treat other people.
Exactly. And remember that whole cost thing we talked about earlier? It comes up again here, but this time it's about us. It's like realizing that everything we do, all our choices, they have an impact on the people around us. We're supposed to be, I don't know, reflections of Christ's love.
Okay, I see what you mean. So it's about taking that love and making it real, actually doing something with it, not just keeping it to ourselves.
Right. And the sermon takes it even further. It connects this idea to new life.
New life.
Yeah.
That's a powerful phrase. It always makes me think of those, cheesy movie makeovers where it's like, bam, everything's different overnight. But you're saying it's deeper than that.
Oh, yeah. It's way more than just a surface level change. It's about who we're becoming on the inside,
Wow.
how our hearts change, how we see the world differently because of this grace and forgiveness.
So it's not about suddenly becoming perfect, like flipping a switch.
Yeah.
It's more about trying to live by these principles, even when it's hard, even when we mess up.
Exactly. That's what's so great about the sermon. It doesn't give us like a rule book or a checklist. It's more like it's an invitation, to keep growing, keep changing, keep becoming more like Christ.
I like that.
Yeah.
So instead of focusing on reaching some kind of, finish line, it's about trying to live out these values every single day.
It's a beautiful way to put it. It's about bringing that love, that sacrifice, that grace into everything we do. Our relationships, our work, even just like how we deal with challenges and setbacks. Life is messy. Then the sermon doesn't pretend it's not, but it's about going through it, all the ups and downs, and letting ourselves be changed by this incredible grace.
That makes sense, but it's still a lot to take in. Especially when we think about the example Jesus set, facing all that hardship with such incredible strength and compassion.
Yeah.
But the sermon doesn't end on a, depressing note, does it? It comes back to this idea of hope.
Exactly. And it reminds us that, yeah, the crucifixion was awful, but it wasn't the end. The resurrection, it's this beacon of hope. It's proof that even when things seem their bleakest, there's always a chance for something new, a fresh start.
And that potential for change, for a new beginning, it's not just some far-off idea, right? It's not reserved for, a special few. It's available to all of us, here and now.
Absolutely. It's this message of hope that goes beyond time and circumstances. It speaks to what it means to be human. We all mess up, we all fall down, but we can get back up. We can be transformed by grace. It's a reminder that no matter what we've done or where we've been, there's always a chance for redemption, for healing, for a new beginning.
I hear that new life bit. It's like my brain goes straight to those cheesy makeover montages.
Aha, right.
Like suddenly everything's different, new clothes, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's not really like that. It's more internal,
Yeah.
about changing how we see things.
It is. It's way more about who we're becoming on the inside. How our hearts change because of this grace, this forgiveness. It's about trying to see ourselves, see the world the way Christ did, with that same love.
So less about becoming perfect overnight, more about, trying to live by those same principles, even when it's hard.
Exactly. That's what I love about this sermon. It's not some rigid thing. It's an invitation to grow, to keep changing, becoming more like Christ. And that's a lifelong thing. It's not like you just check it off the list.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a journey, right? Not a destination.
Exactly.
Wow. This has been, a lot to unpack. We've covered so much, from the weight of sin and all that to this idea of new life, this transformation. It's a lot to think about.
It really is. It's one of those messages that sticks with you, makes you think about things differently.
It really does. And for everyone listening, we'll leave you with this. What does embracing this new life mean for you? Practically. What can you do, even today, to start living that out? Keep thinking about it, and we'll see you next time for another Deep Dive.